Hi guys, and thank you for joining me. My name is Fritzy Canis, and today we're going to be covering the 6 cool tips to engage students in your Zoom room. So as if we don't have enough hats to wear already, we're going to take our students from passive to interactive students in the classroom. We're going to go ahead and start with tip number 1. So, tip number 1, I like to start off with good old housekeeping. So I remind the students, don't forget to go ahead and click on Manage Participants and chat. That way I have you all on the side. And if you have any questions, you have any comments, concerns, that's a good place to put them. The next thing I do is I give them a minute and a half. Even though class has already started, I say, all right, this is your last chance. Go grab your water, your cup of joe, your tea. I currently have Diet Coke in here right now. And so I put on some music in the background, give them about a minute and a half, and then reel them right back in. The other thing I do, which has really helped me, and I would say is probably a virtual pedagogy nowadays, is making sure I assign a host or a co-pilot, because that is the person when I'm doing my slides, he or she's the one saying, oh, Miss Fritzy, we have a question. And he'll go ahead and chime in. Or he might say something, oh, Miss Fritzy, your slide got stuck. We can't see, we're not following along. So that's why it's so important to have your co-pilot there kind of addressing all those things that we really don't see once we're sharing our screen. So that would probably be our tip number 1. Now, to go to tip number 2. Tip number 2, once they have their warm drink, I like to go ahead and start off with a wellness check. Right now, with so much going on in the pandemic, there's a lot of people that are overwhelmed. I don't blame them. So I go ahead and start once they have their warm drink in their hand and say, okay, how's everyone doing? And I just check in with them. I'll call on the right-hand side and see all my names, all my students, and I'll say, hey, Joe, how are you doing today? Tell me the one thing you're thankful for. Or I engage them in a conversation or a question, but I make sure I call on them. So that way they all have kind of like a time to chime in. Another thing, as I'm reading here on my notes, is I sometimes open up with a story. So I might say something like, man, I was so in my head the other day. I haven't been shopping in so long. I drove over to TJ Maxx and just sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes. That's all I did. So just to kind of let them know, give them that human touch is, yeah, we have academics to work on, but also us being here, being real, and kind of engaging, letting them know what works, what's not working, and how we're feeling, but asking them once again, going back to your managed participants and looking and calling on names so they can tell me what you did recently, right? The other thing I have on here is if I'm having a hard time getting stories, I'll say something like, hey, George or Patty, what was the latest TV show you watched? Was it any good? And we'll just go back and forth. That one always seems to engage all the students. I don't even have to call anyone for that question. Other things that I've done that seem to work is if you have a little bit of time before your class, you can set up a poll. Kind of fun, kind of easy to do on Zoom, and kind of neat feature because it lets them vote on something. So you might see something like, all right, guys, if you had the choice, would you Netflix or would you Disney Plus? And they go and they just vote on something that's very light, and then they can see their results there. So kind of fun things to do in the beginning of your class just to break the ice and get them to start engaging with you. Now we go to tip number 3. Tip number 3. Okay, so usually after the lecture or the scope of the work, making sure they're taking notes, getting into the beef of the lecture for the moment, we dive in to start sharing or exploring. So what I like to do is I like to take my students on a tour. And what's so neat is there's so many different ways to explore that. So the one place I'm going to take you to that I love and they like going is called Google Earth. Google Earth is a fabulous resource because you can just go about anywhere. If you have an account, great. If you don't, that's okay. So I'm going to walk you through what that looks like. And I found this, and ever since I did, we try to go somewhere new every single time. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Google Earth just to walk you through it. And it's going to load. Once it loads, you can go ahead and start talking to students, pulling them out. I work with college students. I am faculty at our community college. So what I do is I'll talk to them about transferring. Where do you want to transfer to? Do you want to go to university? Are we talking about UCs, Cal States? where are we visiting today? This last one that I used was UCI. We toured the campus. It was really neat. But over here, you have all the different options. And whether you're an educator for high school students, middle school students, wherever it is that you teach, you can take them live. There's lots of museums. You can take them to Rome. You can go ahead and zoom in and look at what that looks like. Such a great interactive tool that lets your students engage with different parts of the world. So that is step number 3, taking them out of the classroom, out of the Zoom room, and into the world. So I hope that one you use. I could be live museums. It could even be a virtual tour of your campus. So that's a good one. Now we're going to go ahead and dive into tip number 4. Tip number 4. Okay, so once we've kind of explored and gone to different places around the world, we go ahead, if there's time, to play a couple games. So because I work with college students, ours is some games are going to be a little bit different, but you can modify depending on your age and grade level. So a couple things we do is we do have themes for the week. So for example, I'll have pajama theme next week. Why bother getting into clothes when you can just come on into that room in your pajamas. Don't worry about it as long as you hop on in and I can see you. Yes, I like to see their names, and every once in a while I'll get 1 or 2 whose names I see instead of faces, and that's okay. I got to respect that. So that is one thing. Another one I just did a couple weeks ago was bring your pet to class. So if you have an animal at home that you love and care for, bring them. I want to meet them. We all want to meet them. So little themes here and there every other week, kind of fun. Games. I'm going to give you a couple. So if you're dealing or working with younger kids, you could send them on a scavenger hunt. For example, I'll say something, well, for my college students, I have them use your cell phone. I'll say something, give me the hottest selling coffee Keurig cup selling right now, go. And so they're all looking and trying to find out which is the hottest selling coffee pod out there. So I have them do scavenger hunt on their cell phones. If you're working with little ones, have them go on a sock run. I am looking for the first person to bring me back a red sock, or a yellow crayon, or a napkin. So lots of cool ways to bring those students in and get their minds off of what's going on with the news and your parents and whatever environment they might be in. Another cool game that we use and they really, really enjoy is trivia, random trivia. So I'll just go ahead and kind of go through my brain of knowledge and all I have in there. I might just come up and say, all right, guys, 7 continents, who's going to name them? And I'll pick on someone or someone will chime in. Actually, when we're playing the games, they all want to play. They all want to participate. So I'll ask questions like, where would you find, or what 2 states border the United States? Where would you find the Colosseum? What Disney feature featured a princess with red hair? So just some random trivia. Then I let them take the floor. I'll say, all right, you guys go ahead and use manage participants. Raise your hand. Who has the next trivia question? Go. And that way I can keep them engaged and get them going and involved in the class. I mean, we're having to deal with synchronous, asynchronous styles of teaching here. So we're trying to implement all of that. Another one I have for you that I want you to check out that is kind of neat is a game called Would You Rather. So this is when I get to see them also, and I have to say, okay, if you choose A or the first one, raise your right hand. If you agree with the second option, raise both your hands. Would you rather take a multiple choice final or fill in the answers? Go. And so they'll go ahead and vote on something like that. That way I can see them, and that makes them kind of connect with me and with each other as well. So these are some cool random fun games that we play in class just to keep it lively, keep us going. Now we go to tip number 5. Tip number 5. All right, well, ultimately at the end of the day, as educators, we know probably one of the most important things to our students is I've assessed students with questions and picking their brain on information. The number one thing they want from us as their faculty and instructors are to have clean and clear expectations to make sure those guidelines are easy to follow. Shifting from lecture courses over to virtual can be kind of tricky. There's a lot of different resources we're implementing. So one of the things I use and they really enjoy and find very helpful is on my Canvas page here. One of the tools they really refer to quite regularly is the calendar. It is embedded within Canvas, and it gives them all the information that they really need as far as when assignments are due, how long do they have to submit. On the calendar, once you put your assignments on Canvas, it automatically gets uploaded to the calendar. Every class has a calendar, and in order to find it, and it's quite useful, is on the left-hand side over here. So they're able to just go in there and quickly find anything that they need. Any assignments that you've listed will be on their calendar. That simplifies, instead of having to jump all over different modules or assignments, to go to one set place where they can find their assignments. So we're going to number 6, the last one, tip of the day. And the number 6 tip of the day is keep it light, keep it simple. And ideally, a lot of the ideas I get are from my students anyways. So ask them at the end of your class time, say, all right, guys, any good ideas for next week? Any themes? Who's in? What are we doing? And just let them fill it in on the chat box or let them chime in. Ultimately, it is their class. We want to make sure that they're in there, they're being active, they're being involved, and they're enjoying themselves. We don't know what their livelihood, what their home style looks like. So we want to go ahead and just kind of bring it home and make it fun for them. All right, lastly, because I'm an educator, I want to go ahead and share my one tip with my most respected colleagues who are currently wearing a whole lot of hats right now, all at once. So if you're anything like me, I was sitting down for many hours at a time. My back, my neck was hurting. So quick little story, we went to Lowe's. I wanted a stand-up desk that was $500. Wasn't going to happen. So from the bottom of my heart, my husband said, you know what? I'll make you one. So we went to Lowe's and I thought, oh, that's awesome, but it's going to take weeks and I want one now. So I got clever. Doesn't happen normally, but I did. And I came up with this quick little tool and I want to go ahead and share it with you because it's really helped my back and my neck. All it is an upside down trash can. That's it. That is as fancy as I get. And that has really helped. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you for joining me. Once again, I will see you next time. My name is Fritzy Canis, and good luck in your Zoom room.